Hello, I am outside, and it is a Monday because I fell asleep the last time that I made my update because I was really tired. And so, anyways, this is the update where I tell what God has been showing me and what we've been learning. And so, yes. Oh, yeah, and I am outside because it rained today, and it's just a lovely day outside, even though it's cold. But, anyways. So, a couple Thursdays ago, David Nava, who is the teaching pastor for the Shore, which is a college group, teached on grace. And he was basically saying that we are abusing grace because, Jesus died on the cross, and Jesus is grace. And we are just living our lives like regular pagans, basically. And we are just living it like God doesn't exist sometimes, even though, he does. And since we've been forgiven, we just think that we can go on continuing to sin. And that was a breakthrough for a lot of people, which was awesome. And then afterwards, on Friday and Saturday, we had the apologetics conference, which was really awesome. And Stephen Meyer was the first breakaway that I went to. So I will give you a little bit of information that he shared with us. So, first of all, he was teaching on Darwin's doubt, and so that was the title of it. And he basically was teaching on the Cambrian explosion and protein synthesis. So, first of all, I will explain what the Cambrian explosion is. So, the Cambrian explosion is where the fossil evidence doesn't match up with Darwin's theory. Because the Cambrian explosion just, it shows that the fossils, first of all, the fossils are actually in existence. It's not just like somebody's theory. They have proof of it. And the fossils are showing that the hard-bodied mammals just all of a sudden appeared out of nowhere, and there's no ancestors for them. So, an argument against that some atheists make and made includes, or they're saying that the soft bodies weren't preserved because they're soft-bodied and they weren't able to be preserved in the sediment, but that is not true because porifera, which is sponges, so their cells were preserved in the sediment, and they found evidence of those soft bodies, but the soft bodies that they found, of course, were the sponges, and they weren't anything else. There was no ancestors of those hard-bodied mammals, and so basically it's showing that the hard-bodied mammals just all of a sudden randomly appeared. And so I will show you my data tree thing that I made, data map. So this is what the data is showing. So this is what the scientists found. And then this is Darwin's theory. So Darwin's theory is like, the tree, evolutionary tree, but then the data is showing that they randomly appeared and then started developing from there. And not evolving, just going on about their lives. And then with sorry, it's really cold. And then after that, he was talking about protein synthesis. So, just about the complexity of protein synthesis and how it looks like there is a creator behind all of this because, if there is a masterpiece or, in this case, like a code for the DNA to become the proteins, there must be a creator behind that. So there must be an engineer. So he also put it in the context of engineering. So if you're an engineer and you're creating a website, you put a code behind it, and then the website, appears and everything. And this is basically the same theory behind, intelligent design, because who created that DNA code? It doesn't just happen by itself. That's extremely complex. So, anyways, just one little aspect of this is that protein synthesis. So if any of you guys don't know what protein synthesis is, it's where the process where the DNA becomes a protein. And so basically you have this cell, and inside the cell is the nucleus. And then in that nucleus is DNA. And that DNA is transcribed into RNA. So that RNA goes to a ribosome, which is rRNA, ribosomal RNA, and it is transferred into proteins. But in that transferring process, it's not just like simple, it's actually really, really complex. So tRNA, which is transfer RNA, comes in. And so just pretend this is the RNA that is going to be transferred. And then the tRNA comes in, and it places the different base pairs onto the RNA. And this is all done in the ribosomes. And then once those base pairs are placed, it goes through this little process. It's like a factory. I call it an ape factory because there's all these different methods, steps that it goes through. And so once it goes through the last step, it becomes an amino acid. And then there's like the chain that starts developing of amino acids. Once the chain is done, all the amino acids are forming that protein. And then that protein goes out to your body and becomes, whatever it needs to be. So like skin or, bone, all that different stuff. So basically that's what it is. If you want any more information, I will give it to you. And it's just very interesting to see. That's just one bodily process, just one. And there's tons more where you can see God's hand in everything, which is amazing. And if you want to know, I will share with you because I love sharing and it's just amazing. But I also have many, many resources, like videos and everything. So that was basically what Stephen Meyer was talking about. And then I also got to hear from Lee Strobel, which was pretty interesting. And he was basically talking about how Jesus was the real Jesus and wasn't just a myth, because there was tons of witnesses and all this other stuff, which is, I can save that for another time if you guys really want to know. It's pretty simple, actually. And I have a chart, but I don't have it with me right now, so I won't talk on it. And then I also got to learn about logical fallacies and the different types of arguments that happen, so deductive argument and inductive arguments. And then different types of informal fallacies. So like red herring, ad hominem, straw man, proof surrogate, scare tactic, begging the question, slippery slope, and chronological snobbery, and selective context. And so basically, if anybody wants to know what those are, I will give them to you also. But when you're looking at an argument from either like atheist or Christian, you want to use your logic to pick apart that argument and see if it's actually true or not true. And then Stephen Meyer spoke again for one of the really big conference times, but he was basically saying the same thing, just a little bit more in depth. And then we learned about the types of worldviews. I will say them really fast. So the first worldview is Christianity. The second worldview is scientific naturalism. And then the third worldview is postmodern relativism. Sorry. And then I also did a cults and heresies. That sounds really strange, but we were learning about cults inside of another breakaway. And we were basically learning how cults are anything that doesn't follow the scripture or twists the scripture in a certain way. And yeah, so a lot of people think that cults are like Satan worshipers and everything, but actually cults are basically what I said, anything that doesn't use the Bible in its right context, which is kind of scary because that means there's a lot of cults out there, so a lot more than I thought. So afterwards, on Sunday, we went to church, and this one's actually really cool. Not like any of the past ones weren't cool, but this one might relate more to your guys' lives because it's talking about spiritual maturity. And we're going off the book of James, which every single chapter has something new to offer for the spiritual maturity things. So, first of all, the first chapter is basically saying that a spiritually mature person stays positive under pressure. And then the second chapter is saying that they are compassionate to people. And then the third chapter is saying that they mastered their mouth, so they don't speak badly about anybody, and they can hold their tongue. And then the fourth chapter is saying that spiritually mature people are peacemakers and not troublemakers. And then the fifth chapter is saying that they stay hopeful when they are troubled. And then throughout these next weeks, we are going to be going through every single chapter of James. So it's going to take 10 weeks because we're splitting each chapter up into 2 weeks. And then we basically met for the Nicaragua trip. So I took some notes on that. Just basically what I need and everything, and what we're going to be doing, which is building water towers, or putting up a water tower and building homes, because a lot of people's homes broke down, and providing people with food and shelter and clean water. And then there was one last one. Oh, basically teaching the word of Jesus, which I don't think that's the last one. There's another one that we're doing. But yeah, we're going to the little kids in the schools and everything, because there's a lot of people who promise to come out there but don't end up coming out there. So we're paving a way for the next missionaries to come, so they have a place to stay and everything, so they can speak to the people in need over there, because there's a huge need. And then last Sunday, we were talking about James chapter 1 and about building perseverance. And so James 1:12 is saying that blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, which sounds odd, but you basically rejoice when you have a trial, because you know that you're going to be refined, and you know that your faith is going to grow afterwards if you persevere, because God is testing you, and you become a stronger believer once you endure that trial. And you just have to be positive while going through it. And you know that God is there with you, helping you. And then you also want to make the pain matter. So when you're in that trial, you don't want to just turn back around, and if you turn back around, that means the pain wasn't worth it. But if you just keep on going through it and make it through and learn from it, that means the pain actually mattered, and it was, worth something, and you grew from it. And then the third thing, sorry, I'm not sure if I'm going off of numerical order, but the next thing that you want to do while persevering through a trial is to ask God. Basically, go to God first, and don't go to your other friends first to gossip, but just go directly to God, because He wants to hear from us, and He will tell us what's right and what we should be doing, instead of going to your friends first. And God deserves to be basically the first on your list. And then once you go to God first, you can find significance in a relationship with God and not with earthly possessions. So, and that's basically it. So, anyways, I am so glad that you guys watched these videos, and it makes me very happy to know that I can give you some little nuggets of wisdom. And if you would like any more, just message me privately or something. Well, anyways, goodbye.